You've been productive all morning. You knocked out emails, handled calls, made decisions without hesitation. Then afternoon hits, and suddenly choosing what to eat for lunch feels like solving a puzzle you don't have energy for. By evening, scrolling instead of reading that book you wanted to finish doesn't even register as a choice anymore. You just do it. This isn't about being lazy. It's not a character flaw or a lack of discipline. What you're experiencing has a name, and it happens to everyone, every single day, whether they notice it or not. Your willpower isn't infinite. It depletes. And the way it depletes follows a pattern so predictable that researchers have been studying it for decades. Most people assume willpower is like a skill, something you either have or don't have, something that gets stronger the more you use it, like a muscle at the gym. But that's not how it works. Willpower operates more like a fuel tank. Every decision you make, every impulse you resist, every choice you deliberate over, it all draws from the same limited supply. In the morning, that tank is full. You wake up, and your capacity to control yourself, to make thoughtful decisions, to resist distractions, it's all there. You can say no to the snooze button. You can choose the healthier breakfast. You can sit down and focus on work that requires effort. But with every choice, the tank drains a little. And here's the part most people don't realize. It's not just the big decisions that drain it. It's everything. Picking an outfit, deciding whether to reply to a message now or later, choosing between tasks on your to-do list, resisting the urge to check your phone, all of it counts. By midday, you've already made hundreds of micro-decisions, most of them so small you didn't even notice, but your brain noticed. And it's tired. Research into this phenomenon shows that self-control relies heavily on glucose. Your brain uses energy to regulate behavior, and when that energy runs low, your ability to resist impulses weakens. You're not imagining it. The struggle to stay disciplined after a long day is biochemical, not moral. This is why you can turn down dessert at lunch but not at dinner. Why you can focus during your first meeting but zone out during the fourth one. Why saying no to distractions feels easy in the morning and nearly impossible by 8 p.m. It's also why people who work in high-pressure jobs that require constant decision-making, report feeling mentally exhausted even when they haven't done anything physically demanding. Judges, for example, have been shown to make harsher rulings later in the day compared to earlier sessions. Parole decisions shift. Leniency drops. Not because the case has changed, but because the judge's mental resources did. The same thing happens to you at your desk. The fifth time you have to choose between responding to a coworker or finishing a task, your brain starts defaulting to whatever's easier. The 10th time you resist opening a distracting tab, the resistance gets weaker. By the end of the day, you're not choosing anymore. You're just reacting. And this is where it gets uncomfortable. You've probably blamed yourself for this, for not having enough discipline, for being weaker in the evenings, for failing to stick to your intentions when it matters. But the truth is, you were never supposed to have the same level of control at 9 p.m. as you did at 9 a.m. The system was always going to run out. Here's what makes this even harder to notice. The depletion is gradual. You don't suddenly lose all self-control at once. It fades in increments. A little less focus here, a little more impulsivity there. By the time you realize it's happening, you're already deep into it. Think about how you interact with your phone throughout the day. In the morning, you might check it intentionally. You open it, read what you need, close it. But by evening, you're picking it up without thinking. You unlock it, scroll for a few seconds, put it down, then pick it up again 2 minutes later. You're not deciding to do this. Your depleted willpower just isn't strong enough to stop the habit. Or think about conversations. Early in the day, you can listen carefully, respond thoughtfully, manage your tone even when you're annoyed. But after a long day, a small comment from a partner or roommate can trigger a reaction you wouldn't have had hours earlier. Not because the comment was worse, because your capacity to regulate your response was lower. This doesn't mean you're out of control. It means your brain is conserving energy. When resources are low, it prioritizes survival over sophistication. It takes shortcuts, it automates. It defaults to what's familiar, what's easy, what requires the least effort. The uncomfortable realization here is that a lot of your evening behavior isn't really chosen. You think you're deciding to skip the workout, to eat the convenient thing, to watch another episode, but in many cases, you're just too depleted to decide otherwise. The path of least resistance wins, not because you're weak, but because resistance itself requires a resource you've already spent. And this brings up something important. Knowing this doesn't mean you're off the hook. It doesn't mean you can blame every poor choice on depletion and move on. What it does mean is that expecting yourself to have the same self-control at all hours is unrealistic. You're working with a system that has limits, and those limits are biological, not personal. Some people try to fight this with sheer force. They push harder in the evening, believing that discipline is about overriding the exhaustion. but that approach usually backfires. The more you force decisions when you're depleted, the more drained you become. It's like trying to sprint on an empty tank. You might move forward for a moment, but you won't get far, and you'll feel worse afterward. Others don't fight it at all. They just accept that evenings are a wash and let themselves drift into whatever happens. That works for some people, but it also means losing any sense of agency over a significant part of the day. The middle ground, the one that research quietly points to, is this. Your willpower is strongest earlier. That's not motivation. That's mechanics. If something requires self-control, if it requires a decision you know you'll want to avoid later, the earlier you do it, the better your odds. But even understanding this doesn't make it easy, because your day doesn't always cooperate. You don't control when meetings happen, when emergencies come up, when other people need your energy. Life depletes you on its own schedule, not yours. What you can control, at least partially, is how many unnecessary decisions you're making. Every choice you automate, every habit you build that removes the need to decide, that's one less draw on the tank. It's not about optimizing your life into a rigid system. It's about recognizing that decision-making has a cost, and sometimes the smartest thing you can do is reduce how often you're paying it. This is why people who seem unusually disciplined often aren't relying on discipline at all. They've structured their environment so fewer choices are required. Same breakfast, same workout time, same evening routine. It looks like willpower, but it's actually the opposite. It's the removal of willpower from the equation. And maybe that's the quiet truth underneath all of this. Willpower isn't something you build. It's something you manage. You can't make the tank bitter, but you can be more careful about when and how you use it. You can stop treating every evening failure as a moral issue and start seeing it as a resource issue. You're not weaker at night. You're just running on what's left, and what's left is never going to feel the same as what you started with. That's not a flaw. It's just how the system works.